So I'm a bit sorry about messing up the agenda. So I was actually supposed to talk about something completely different, and but I wasn't really here. And actually, it turns out I'm going to talk about the something different tomorrow. So I kind of didn't really want to give like the same talk twice. So I feel like I'm just going to talk about something else entirely. So yeah, I mean, this is a lightning talk. Please don't expect any level of quality. Uh, you know, this isn't exactly quality content. But so what is this about? I'm here to recruit you guys for an awesome change that should really be made. And this is all about making Swarm more accessible to everyone. And I guess you've probably noticed this problem before. I mean, every time anyone gives a demo, there's this step where they either have to run a Swarm node on their laptop, or they have to use the gateway, and then maybe it doesn't work, and it's, you know, it's just, yeah, it's a problem. So, and I mean, everyone kind of has this problem. I mean, if you're building an app on Swarm, then well, everyone who uses this app either has to have the gateway, or they have to have the node. And I would just want to talk a bit about, you know, the options that we have for improving the situation. Let's start by fixing some completely different issue, which is to put this into presentation mode. I'm not so sure how to do that, but oh, I see. Yeah, slideshow, right? Boom, slideshow. Okay, so the issue, right? So Swarm runs on DevP2P, and DevP2P is a P2P networking stack, and there are some good parts about Swarm using DevP2P. So the good parts are that this is pretty much shared infrastructure with the Ethereum blockchain. So basically, all the good things about DevP2P in general, well, they are also available to Swarm. And Swarm and Ethereum both increase each other's security. So every Swarm node that you run will be part of the distributed hash table that is also used by Ethereum. So, and more nodes in the distributed hash table always means the distributed hash table is going to be bigger, and it means it's going to be more resilient to attacks and everything like that. So that's a huge plus for. Oh wait, actually, slideshow means something different. I just realized slideshow means it's like for photos. Whatever. So yeah, we can work with that. So low level details, and now you've already seen like my whole presentation, but I might as well just leave. So there are some good parts, and I mentioned those, but there are also some bad parts. So the bad part is that, well, you can't get to it from the browser, right? So I mean, this is pretty obvious. You just can't. I mean, the browser doesn't talk to the P2P network, and it's just, there's basically no way. And the reason for that is that, well, with DevP2P, all the connections between the nodes, they're basic TCP connections, and you just can't do those from the browser, right? And then the whole other reason is that, you know, the way that the Swarm networking layer is designed, that's basically, well, the whole design was basically influenced by the architecture of DevP2P. So, you know, if you're going to change it now, then you have to change everything. So it's not really like, we don't have so many options, basically. Yeah, so Swarm in the browser. There is some stuff about browsers, right? So browsers have limited network connectivity in general. And there are some really good things about that. So, I mean, I wouldn't really suggest changing that, to be honest. So, I mean, one of the good things about browsers is that they can't really mess with core internet infrastructure. So from the browser, the worst you can do is, well, send a lot of HTTP requests, and maybe that's going to mess with some service, but you can't attack the domain name system or any other kind of low-level system, because you just can't connect to those from the browser directly. And then the other good thing about browsers is that there's a lot of security guarantees that you get when you're using a browser that are taken care of by the browser vendor, like all the encryption and HTTPS and stuff like that. This is something that, you know, like smart people cared about, and they've put a lot of effort into it and so on. So you can't really, like, you get this for free, like just by using the browser. But in a P2P setting, browsers are actually kind of annoying for the exact same reason, because they can't really talk to anything else, they can't really accept any incoming connections, and generally browsers can't give any data back to any sort of P2P network. And well, that's not so great, because, you know, Swarm is all about giving data back to the network. When you're running a node, obviously you want it to contribute to the network, and the browser can't do that. So what you generally do when you have the browser and you have the Swarm over there is you just use a gateway, right? And yeah, I don't know why I put this slide. So a big question is, like, do these downsides, you know, of the browser, does it actually matter to Swarm? And I think it was last year at the Swarm Summit in Berlin, I gave a talk and I said, you know what, guys, browsers, no way, we're never going to have the browsers in the P2P, and just, you know, just don't do it. But to be honest, when you look at Swarm as a application, all of these downsides, they don't really matter. And a big reason for that is that Swarm is at least going to have an incentive system. And with the incentive system, the node is just going to get paid for the content that it's serving, and it doesn't really matter, like, which protocol is using, like, to serve the content. So in theory, the node can be paid in any way, and it can serve the content in any way, and everything's fine. I mean, leeching is fine if you pay for it. You know, it's not really leeching, right? If you do. So this is now the point where I kind of have to, because I made this all up, I have to figure out how to. I don't know, where's the mouse? Oh, it's over here. Okay. Cool. So what else? Right, so we have a bunch of options actually to sort of enable access to Swarm from the browser. And then there's option number 1, which is to go P2P all the way. And I'm kind of mentioning this because it's like the shittier option, and you always need this like second shitty option to make the second one look good. So this is this option. So basically what we need to do to make it accessible on the P2P layer would be to sort of port the entirety of Swarm networking to a different protocol. So likely that would be something using WebSockets, or it would probably be WebRTC. I mean, everyone says, you know, talking to the browser, P2P, WebRTC, right? It's kind of obvious, but then when you look a bit harder, actually using WebRTC is pretty complicated, because it's a massive protocol. You still need like a signaling server to make the connectivity work, and you know, just implementing WebRTC isn't just something you do in like a day. It takes months and getting it right, and then you know, there are so many problems with it. So in general, you know, you don't really have so many options actually, but I mean, if you put a lot of work into it, you'd probably be able to make it work. But then, you know, even if you have a transport protocol that allows you to access Swarm from the browser, you'd still need to actually implement the whole Swarm protocol in something like JavaScript, right? So you'd need like a lot of implementation effort to really, really make this work. And, you know, by the time you'd be done, nobody would care about Swarm anymore. So what's the second option? Embrace the gateway. And I feel like this is something where, when I said I was recruiting you, I wasn't really kidding, you know? Like, I mean, everyone could kind of contribute to that effort. It's basic web development, right? So I feel like, you know, a better option would be to just sort of have like a secondary discovery layer, something that allows you to actually sort of find all the gateways. You know, so, you know, there are gateways, and, you know, you can use them. It's just, you know, you just have to pick one. So why don't we have a system that allows you to, like, see all the gateways so you can pick from those, you know? So that will be something to, you know, to add. But then, you know, in theory, any Swarm node can be a gateway, right? Because they pretty much all have the same API. It's just that, well, there's a couple of work items to be done before you can really sort of assume that model. I mean, you'd really have to audit all the APIs one more time to figure out, if they're really safe to expose on the internet. Can you access the file system on the host through the APIs, for example? That would be a security nightmare. Is there any kind of access to what? Yeah. This is the last slide. So, and basically you have to check, like, can you, I don't know, do bad things with the keys that are loaded into the node? Can you access those some way? You need to, like, audit the APIs to figure out if there are any problems of this sort. And then the whole other thing is that you'd sort of have to make the payment part of the HTTP API. So basically, this is something that isn't done right now. So every time you're interacting with a gateway, you'd kind of have to, like, include the payment in the API call. And there's, like, a lot of prior art to this. Actually, this is one of the first projects we ever did on Ethereum, was this cool hackathon project called Ether APIs that allowed you to sort of wrap any HTTP API and put, like, a bunch of extra headers that would, enable you to sort of pay per request. And I feel that this isn't really hard, most Ethereum developers should be pretty comfortable with building, like, a micropayment solution or something like that. And I feel like that would be totally sufficient for this use case. And maybe the long-term benefit for Swarm in general, if payment moved to the very edge of the system, to the actual API, would be that, well, the Swarm node might actually be able to lose its blockchain connection, because right now when you're running a Swarm node, that's not really the end of the story. You at least need, some kind of Ethereum node as well to even make the whole thing work. So, yeah. And, well, guys, I mean, there's a lot of web developers. I mean, go ahead and, well, do it. Do I have to take this off? How do I,
You have any questions?
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Peer-to-peer accepted as a transport layer.
Yeah.
And use WebSockets and still keep dev peer-to-peer. And in the browser, just compile the Go code to JavaScript, and on the other end, the get nodes would accept peer-to-peer.
When I was writing the slides, I was thinking about how to answer.
So what's rubbish about this? Tell me.
Well, so if you're gonna compile the Go client, you're gonna have like a 25 megabyte download on the web page, and there's a bunch of issues with that. Basically, so the issue is mostly that just the protocol that you have now with Swarm is basically, it's for Swarm phone nodes talking to each other. So putting that's not really going to work for the basic access that you have right now where you just want to download something. I have heard that there's like a light client that's in development, and I think that kind of thing could work. But just running like an entire Swarm node in the browser compiled to JavaScript, I think is going to be too much.
I understand. Maybe you're right.
Yeah.
But if it's a lean client, maybe. So just the networking part is not visible. Just to put it on web.
Well, it's
WebSockets. Just the transport layer.
There is no inherent issue with changing the transport layer, but like I said, if you do that, there's going to be a lot of stuff to think about in terms of also incompatibility in general with browsers and P2P. So there is, just being able to talk to it isn't really the end of the story, is what I was trying to convey earlier, is that, even if you can talk to the browser, there's still a lot of stuff that you have to think about just, once the browser is there, how is it going to behave?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks.
Yeah, one more question in the very back.
I have a question. It's also quite heavyweight to have an Ethereum client in the browser, and yet we manage to do that via plugins right now, and lots of some browsers are already starting to integrate it. So I think this shouldn't be a question of heavyweight clients versus lightweight client that you can ship via a website. But for a truly secure architecture, I think it makes a lot of sense to put to put the code under the control of the user and not to trust the web server necessarily. So do you think that this is a viable way to look at this, maybe not like in 2 weeks, but maybe in 2 years, to have a Swarm lib P2P integrated into browsers directly?
Yeah, well, that is like an option as well. I didn't put this option because getting it into the browser, it requires like a lot of coordination, and it has to be. So my main issue with this kind of solution is that it has to be popular for that. Like, I mean, maybe you could run it in a browser extension, but you know, there's a couple of options for, you know, like putting it in the browser. But even from an extension, you can't do unrestricted network communication. So it would really have to be, you'd basically need the Swarm in the browser. And these two things, they go together if, you know, sort of Swarm is popular enough that most people are going to need it, right? Yeah.
Okay, if there's no more questions, so Victor will give the next lightning talk. Thank you very much, Felix.
Okay.
Thank you, Felix.